Hey, what's going on, everyone? How you guys doing today? My name is Matt Jarbo. This is 3 Buck Theater. And if you're new here, please do me a solid. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, join the Facebook group, all the fun things you have to do to keep up with what's going on in the entertainment industry, at least with this channel. Today's been a fun day. Today's been a very interesting day, an enlightening day, and one that really does kind of push us towards the future. At least it gives us an idea for how studios can combat COVID. This, of course, is not going to solve the movie theater's problem, but the studios might be able to find themselves in a position to earn a pretty penny while staying afloat and kind of leave the movie theaters, well, to their own devices for right now. I mean, it's not a perfect system, but it is what it is, and it is where we find ourselves, and it's only going to get more divided in regards to how we see our movies and our TV shows and our entertainment from here. And it's going to really be fascinating to see what happens with this whole Mulan thing. Now, I did do a video talking about Mulan going to PVOD for $30 through Disney Plus's Premier Access setup. This, of course, according to Disney Plus, according to Disney, according to Bob Chapek, is a one-off scenario. It's not meant to be the new norm. It is not meant to be how they proceed forward. The whole idea is simply this: get the movie, this case Mulan, in the hands of people early or in general, in order to be able to earn some money and give them something new to watch. And then it will be on Disney Plus at a later date. And by then it's already going to be uploaded to the server. All they just have to do is turn off the paywall. And that's really about it. It's actually pretty ingenious if you think about it. And this is one of those things where, like I said, the title of this video is Disney Solved Studios COVID Problem. They really did. But they're not the first persons to try it. I just want to make that abundantly clear. We know that by going back over here to Trolls World Tour from April, we found out that it made more for Universal in 3 weeks on demand than Trolls did in 5 months of release. Now, that's not necessarily the fairest comparison, to be honest with you, because the amount of money that Trolls World Tour racked up, which according to this top little info piece here, is $100 million in the first couple weeks of its release, and that the $157 million is what the first Trolls brought in back in 2016. But here's the thing, to be fair, when you talk about Trolls now versus Trolls in 2016, it's garnered a much larger fan base. The movie having been on Netflix for quite some time, there being a 5-season animated show on Netflix and a holiday special. I have a 2.5-year-old daughter who adores Poppy and Branch. I'm talking, we have full-size Poppy and Branch troll dolls that she sleeps with, and we watch Trolls quite often. So yes, that franchise is awesome, and it had a built-in fan base that were going to be the reasons why it did the money that it did. Mulan, on the other hand, is something that is entirely different, and that has a lot to do with the fact that it's not something people have been begging for. There have been a lot of people that have been trying to argue the point of, well, no one asked for a Lion King remake, and that made over $1 billion, and that is true. And I would argue that as much as I love Jon Favreau and the stagecraft technology that went into The Lion King, I finally watched it and I hated it. It was an absolute soulless cash grab, even though it had star-studded talent. And Beyonce, I'm sorry, ruined that movie. You won't be able to ever convince me that Beyonce just doesn't suck. She totally sucks. But back on the subject of Trolls, we can look at some of the information on Trolls to get an idea for about maybe what it's actually earned at this point. And so I do want to bring up the whole thing here with the numbers.com. And this is, again, going back, this is keeping it on point. But as we can see here, Trolls World Tour did release theatrically, internationally at least, and it did gross $8 million overseas. And so far, its domestic take home for Blu-ray and DVD sales is just about $23.5 million. So the movie, at least according to Universal at this point, has probably proved to be more profitable than, let's say, the first Trolls movie, but not as profitable as it could have been had it actually gone out to theaters at the time. And when you look at something like Mulan, this one coming in at $30, it's going to be premium. Is this going to be something that people are going to pick up on? Well, Trolls kind of laid out the groundwork for that. It did. Trolls did with the with its PVOD rental service for $20, but you could also have purchased The Hunt and Bloodshot and The Invisible Man for $20 as well. You know, the Invisible Man and The Hunt through Universal, also with Trolls. And I haven't been able to find what they brought home. So I don't know how much money they earned at all, which I find to be kind of weird, because I'm like, I'd like to know this data. And you think if they were out there bragging about Trolls, they would have been bragging about, you know, the other. But I don't think they did as well, and they probably didn't want to push it. Same with Sony's Bloodshot. It didn't, you know, no one ever really talks about it anymore. So we don't know how well it did. But we do know Trolls, and we do know what Mulan is charging and everything else. So what does that essentially mean for the future? Well, I know that Universal and AMC just worked a deal where Universal will debut certain movies in AMC theaters on a 3-week window and then go to PVOD. That's not everything. That's not everything, but it is in fact going to be for most of their films that are not the gigantic blockbusters like Fast and Furious 9, Jurassic World Dominion, Minions 2, and whatever else they have coming down the pipeline that they deem to be something that's going to be bigger. However, this whole Mulan thing, depending on how popular it is, on how profitable it is, could theoretically change everything because of HBO Max and because of Peacock. Now, we know that when it comes to Sony, there's no premium on-demand service, streaming service that they have, but they could license out their bigger films. They could say, screw it, we're going to put Ghostbusters Afterlife on PVOD and to see how well it does. You know, I mean, I would pay for that. I would absolutely pay for that. I would 100% pay to see Ghostbusters Afterlife on PVOD, and then probably down the road go see it in theaters, or at least buy it on home video. Like, I still like to buy my physical media, even though according to some recent reports, that is kind of killing the environment. Fine, I'll recycle my water bottles a bit better. Okay, can we call it square on that one? But really, let me break it down for you guys like this. Warner Brothers has HBO Max. They could theoretically put Wonder Woman on PVOD, Tenet on PVOD, charge an absolute premium. And the reason why they're going to charge something like $30 is because people who really want to see it will pay the money for it. And maybe, just maybe, it will turn a bit of a profit, because they'll at that point be able to slow down on print and advertising. So the marketing budget will drop. They won't have to cut and split anything with distributors or with the theaters, because that gets cut out. But that does, you know, also cut into the potential amount of money that's going to be earned. But I really do feel that if we are in a position right now where theaters are not going to be opening for a while, you know, I mean, some of the things we hear is that there, you know, if there's not going to be a vaccine until the end of 2021, even though I know elements of our government are pushing for a vaccine, they're working with other countries, and there have been talks about a vaccine being in the early stages of availability, or at least testing in the next few weeks, which is insane, is something that still is going to take time to get out to the general public. It's going to take time to more or less reset the clock to bring us back to normal. What we are dealing with here is a situation where we have incompetent leadership from our government, and we have people out there who refuse to social distance, refuse to wear a mask, and refuse to actually stop being selfish. And that is a big factor. You and me and everyone could be at the movies right now if 4 months ago these selfish dickwads actually followed protocol put forward by people who know what the F they're talking about, 100%. But because they didn't, we've now seen spikes and we've seen increases, and a lot of people out there have suffered personal losses. I myself, a few weeks ago, lost a former friend. Well, not a friend, he was a friend, but a former employee and coworker from the theater I worked at in San Diego. I knew the guy for well over a decade. He was a great guy. He caught it. Didn't believe in any of the precautions, didn't believe in any of that stuff, and he unfortunately passed away as a result. So yeah, I've been taking everything a lot more seriously myself, even though thankfully I'm in a place where there's not a lot of cases. That doesn't mean that it's not still worth it to take precautions. And I know you might argue, but Matt, you're getting political. Why are you getting political on this one? Because this is a reality. This is all connected. You, me, everyone who watches this channel, watches movie YouTube, we all want to go see movies. We all want to go back to the theater. We all want life to get back to normal. We want to be able to do all the things we were able to do 6 months ago. But it's going to take a long time. We're talking like another year to year and a half to potentially even 2 years, depending on how well things go. And given where things are now, at least in this country, I am not confident that it will progress itself further. You know, that it's going to do well, that people are going to take it seriously. I think we're going to be stuck in this phase for a while. And that's unfortunate. But when it comes to entertainment, when it comes to all of these things, studios are going to have to make money. Theaters are going to take the brunt of it. Theaters are absolutely positively going to end up getting hosed on this one. And a lot of them are going to have to file for bankruptcy. And a lot of them are going to need absolute bailouts because they're not going to be able to stay afloat. But studios, on the other hand, who have all of this content that they were shooting or have shot or were editing or whatever, they can work from home. They can work remotely. Animation, at least through Sony Pictures, is going to then increase because they've determined that you can actually make this stuff from home pretty easily with the staff working remotely. And they also want to focus more on R-rated adult content, which could then go to streaming services. If Sony takes some of its movies like Morbius or Venom 2 or Ghostbusters, and it decides that they want to, in fact, put those on PVOD to earn some money, then their best bet would be to work with someone like Disney and Disney Plus, who has access to 60.5 million people, and put it up on their service through some kind of, well, collaboration and some kind of distribution agreement. What we're seeing here is, in this particular case, movie studios are now actually distribution platforms. They're not distributors working through an intermediary, kind of like, selling off movies to a Blockbuster or to a Hollywood Video or a rental chain, or going to a movie theater company or a Redbox or something, or whatever. Now they literally, in the case of Disney Plus, Peacock, HBO Max, CBS All Access, and whatever the hell else is going to come out of CBS, because let's be fair, Paramount, all that stuff, they are now distribution platforms, meaning they have full autonomous control of their properties, and they can charge a premium on-demand cost for them. And I think that is right now at this point going to be what moves forward. Black Widow, PVOD. Wonder Woman 1984, PVOD. Tenet, PVOD. They're going to have to. And I know I said the movies are probably not coming out, and that was a few weeks ago, and things have now changed. So this is my updated thought process on this, but allow me to explain why those movies are probably going to have to go PVOD. Because if the business model is successful, as we've seen with Trolls and Scoob in regards to animated properties and stuff aimed at children, could it still be decent for people who are older? Would they be willing to pay the money? And this is where we're going to have to see what happens, because personally, I will not pay $30 for Mulan. I just won't do it. Will I pay $30 for New Mutants? Yes. Would I pay $30 for Wonder Woman? Yes. Would I pay $30 for Tenet? Absolutely. Although I do want it laser blasted into my eyes via 70mm IMAX. But would I pay for Black Widow? Would I pay for all these other movies like Morbius and Venom 2? Yes, I would. I would absolutely do that. And if that comes down to it, I absolutely will pay that. But my fear is that piracy is going to play a big part in this. And and this is something that they are playing with fire on, and it may burn them, it may not. And Mulan is a really, really interesting canary in the coal mine that a lot of people aren't necessarily thinking about. So let me explain. So Mulan, remember, that was supposed to come out before Tenet, and they kept kind of wishy-washying on it. And I said before, they don't want to be the canary in the coal mine. Now they have chosen to be the canary in the coal mine. As they put this movie on PVOD at a cost that is not as bad as you might think, right? Not as bad as you might think. $30 isn't terrible. It's not the best, but it's not terrible. They can now test to see how this model works. If they're going to be releasing the film in theaters in areas where they don't have Disney Plus, in areas where they're still a theatrical market, which there are some places that are, then they'll be able to, at that point, earn some money off of that. So it does allow them to earn something. But the problem then becomes the domestic market and piracy. Now, people have been talking a lot about this on Twitter, about piracy being a big factor here. Millions of people are going to pirate Mulan. 100% it's going to happen. Disney has to be prepared for this. So my question then becomes, if Mulan was such a big draw for them, like, why is it they're doing it with this? Why aren't they doing it with New Mutants as a tester? Why with Mulan? And I think that has to do with the fact that they realize that here in the United States, it's maybe not tracking as well even before all this went down. Maybe it wasn't tracking as well as they wanted it to. Remember, they released Dumbo last year in March, and that crashed and burned. I think it had $40 million was like its opening weekend, or like that's what it made total. It was not a lot of money. It didn't make a lot of money. But Mulan is one that will do well in China. So they are clearly going to want to release it in China to make that money, but they're going to release it here PVOD. So they're probably looking at an end of August release in China, hoping to get that money early. But as soon as it's PVOD, all those rips are going to hit the internet, and then it's going to be, who knows? I don't know. We'll have to wait and see what happens. But if it's successful, this is going to be the future. These streaming services that are now distribution platforms are going to then be able to charge PVOD prices, and people are going to pay for it. And I think that could be a business model going forward that could actually save them some money in the actual production side of things, because these people are going to, you save money on prints and advertising, you save money on all the costs associated with releasing a film, and people just buy it. And then they're already paying a monthly subscription fee. So you're kind of double dipping on people for something that they may want. And then through fear of missing out, people might be willing to buy more, or just wait until that movie then becomes available on the streaming service. By then, you're still getting their money. Either way, you're still getting their money. And in some cases, you're getting it a lot faster than others. So yeah, I think right now, Mulan just solved the studio's problem. And it'll be very interesting to see what happens next. I'm curious to know your thoughts. I'm curious to know your opinions. Let me know down in the comments below. My name is, of course, Matt Jarbo. This has been $3 Theater. If you made it this far, go ahead and type COVID into the chat. I don't know why. It's the first thing that came to me. I'll talk to you all later. Have yourself a great day. Thank you again for watching, and peace out.